All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to day 2 of the Global Public Procurement Conference. How's everyone feeling today? Gosh, I think you're all sleeping right now. There is sunshine today. I'm a lot more excited about that. Coming into this event yesterday was not easy. I'm going to ask one more time. How's everyone feeling today? There we go. Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. So I hope all of you have had the opportunity to connect last night when you were at the reception, continue these conversations today. Remember, this is a key part of this event. While the presentations are incredible and the experts are also just as incredible, the other part of the value here is that we connect and that we stay in touch beyond this, and then we begin to collaborate on projects so that we can begin implementing and executing some of these changes in our respective organizations and countries. So be very mindful of that, be very present and intentional, and go out and have those conversations. Take advantage of the rest of today. There will be plenty of moments, networking sessions, coffee breaks. Use all of your opportunities to do that. So today we're going to be covering a lot of really important topics. For instance, data management, procurement 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. I mean, this thing is just moving very quickly, as you can see. We will also be talking about the digitalization of smaller states. And in the interest of addressing more topics and being able to focus on areas that are going to address certain people in the audience, part of today will be split up into parallel sessions. So you will have an option to select one presentation or the other. Those presentations will happen either here in the auditorium or in another room upstairs. So there will be and there will be plenty of people to help you get up there. But I want you to be mindful of that in the agenda when you're making your decision on where to go next as you're looking into those discussions. However, our very first panel will occur here, so we will be here for the next hour and a half or so. Before then, we split up. And I'll make more announcements on that to make that clear. Remember your challenges. Share and receive ideas and strategies with each other. Again, it's part of that opportunity. We are all together here, so let's make the most of that. Second, commit to 3 meetings in the next 30 days. Book them. Put them on your calendar. Be very intentional about this. This is how things happen and how they begin. And 3, identify an opportunity to begin your next technology project. One thing you've listened to in a lot of these presentations is, 1, the technology itself. But 2, when you hear the stories about how, when, why they were implemented, you're also hearing the problems that drive the need for this technology. It is important that if we are going to make great use of technology, effective use of technology, that we very clearly identify and understand that problem. Throwing technology at something for the sake of throwing it at whatever the situation is not good enough. There is too much at stake, so we have to make sure that we understand our problems clearly and link them to the appropriate solutions. And so when you're listening to the presentations today, listen very carefully for the problem and the solution, and why that solution addressed that problem in a satisfactory way. So keep that in mind as you're listening to the presentations. There are a few announcements. I made this one a little earlier. The interpretation devices are, again, by the wall. We will have one presentation in Portuguese, so keep that in mind, and this will come in when we welcome our 4 panelists. So you'll have one more opportunity to get up. But if you're nearby and you'd like to grab one, now is a good time. Also, if you're using Twitter, please use the hashtag GPPC2018. I've already seen some activity. I was tracking it last night. Looks like there was a lot of great quotes and a lot of great pictures, links captured and shared with everyone. But I didn't make this announcement yesterday, so I'll make it today. So please do use that hashtag GPPC2018. And if you'd like to tag the IDB, it is the symbol, or the handle is @the_IDB. So you can also tag the IDB as well. But if you use the hashtag, it makes it easy for all of us to search, retweet, and get the word out. But let's let the world know what we're learning here, and let's share some of those insights with everyone else. Presenters, if you are presenting today in one of the panels, not this one, because I already have everyone back there, but if you're presenting in one of the later panel presentations, do make sure that you report to your scheduled room 30 minutes prior, there will be somebody waiting there to make sure that you are mic'd up and you have everything you need and you're set up for that presentation. So we just want to be sure that everything's taken care of. Once we have you mic'd, you can come back, walk around a little bit, and then join us a little closer to the actual time. We just want to make sure that we find you. This is always very difficult when we start splitting up into two sections of a venue, so we don't want to lose you if you're presenting today. So be mindful of that if you are a presenter. Remember, 30 minutes before, in the room that you're scheduled to present. The declaration that we will be signing later is to be signed by the organizations and the countries only, and you will have received an email for this. So please do look out for that email. The instructions for signing that declaration will be on that email, so you'll have all of the information you need. So do be mindful of that, and that will happen later today. And lastly, we will have Slido, the tool we used yesterday, for collecting all of your questions. And by the way, I found out yesterday that a lot of the people tuning into the live stream of this event were submitting their questions through Slido as well. So they're paying attention, very close attention, watching that screen and capturing all of that information. So we will be using Slido again, and we will present that information so you know what code we're going to be using for this one. And then from there, you will be able to submit your questions to all of our panelists later today. We should have about 10 to 15 minutes to take some of those questions. What I will ask is that the questions, you keep the questions as short and as specific as possible so that it will allow, and direct it to a particular person, because then I can very quickly read it, direct it to the person that you'd like answering that question. If it's for all, just say for all, and then ask your question. And we will do our best to capture as many and present as many as possible. Before I get started and we launch our first video, any questions? Anything that we could do to help you? There's staff walking all around, so you will have the opportunity to ask later if you need anything, but do let us know. We're here to make sure that you have a great second day and that you wrap this up really well. Before we do the video, I want to add one more thing. Can we give a big round of applause to all of the organizers who are running around making sure that everything is working so incredibly well for all of you? No, not you, not yet, Jim. You got so excited, I love it. Our keynote speaker's like, I'm ready to do this. They have done an incredible job running around to make all of this possible, and it's just incredible. As someone who works a lot of these events as an MC or a speaker, this team is an absolute all-star team. And so please, if you see them walking around, they're wearing look, I'm not being a very good citizen here, but I promise you I do have a badge. They have an orange lanyard, so if you see them, thank them. Let them know what you think about this event, because they look forward to doing more of these events and hosting more. And your feedback will be very important to them so that they can make this event better next year. But at least say thank you to them. So one more round of applause for all of our organizers. They're everywhere. They're among us. All right. So let's kick off with our video for panel number 4 of our 2-day event.
Data is the lifeblood of the procurement revolution. New tools such as machine learning and cognitive procurement are only as good as the data that you capture, manage, and analyze. As countries progress towards Procurement 4.0, they need to be able to identify savings opportunities, manage risks, and optimize the public sector's buying power. You can't manage what you can't measure. In this session, we will dive into the role data plays in public procurement decision-making, the challenges with measuring performance in public procurement, and finally, the techniques you can use when collecting, analyzing, and visualizing data in public procurement. Let the dataset change your mindset. Please welcome our data scientists and international experts.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker. Gianluigi Albano is the head of research and strategies at Consip, the national central purchasing body in Italy, and an adjunct professor of economics at the University Luis. He is also the co-author of The Law and Economics of Framework Agreements, Designing Flexible Solutions for Public Procurement. His current research topics include collaborative contracting in building design and construction, the applications of blockchain and big data in public procurement. In 2014, he delivered the first comprehensive training sessions on preventing collusion in public procurement in Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, y Colombia, funded by the IDB. If you speak with Gianluigi, he may share a very interesting story with you that I'd like to preview a little bit on. Just a few days before defending his dissertation, which was on the economic analysis of criminal activities, very interesting topic, there was a sweeping police investigation known as the Clean Hands in Italy, and it entered the public domain. So in a few days, many well-known politicians and businessmen were all arrested. I mean, this was a really big shakeup in Italy. Well, on the day before he defended his dissertation, upon starting the discussion, the chair of the dissertation committee looked at him very seriously and said, "Gianluigi, this looks like a nice piece of work you have here. You were born in the south of Italy, yes?" And he was like, "Yes." "You chose this topic on your own, yes? Did you have any confidential information about what happened over the last couple of weeks?" In Italian, it sounded much funnier. However, at the time, he was ready to defend. You can imagine he was not laughing very much. Please help me welcome to the stage, Gianluigi.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, a nice introduction, I think, is the most intimidating thing to start a talk. Really pleased to be here, and I want to thank first, IDB for the invitation, for giving me one more opportunity to share a little bit of my experience with you, and that's the advantage of getting older. You accumulate experience, and likely you can learn from that experience. And a lot of my talk is going to be around the problem of and the concept of learning. How do we learn in public? Is learning really important? Why it's becoming more and more relevant in our profession? And yesterday, I was really delighted to see and to be among you to learn what Public Procurement 4.0 is about. And then I thought, well, maybe, but why? Is there any way of redefining Global Public Procurement Conference 4.0. So is a way of evolving the nature of conferences in that direction. And I thought, yes. So maybe one way of getting into the future in events like this is to get speakers becoming more interconnected. And I thought, well, what I'm going to do tomorrow, if I have time, I want to prove that in fact speakers are not silos or standalone entities. They're connected because what they talk about basically has many more common points that we normally think. So I want to borrow from my speaker that I found really awesome, Jose Arrieta, yesterday. At some point, he started off by saying, okay, when we were teenagers, did we think of joining the public procurement profession? How many of us? So we can repeat this exercise today and say, okay, let's go outside and let's take randomly a teenager and ask this person, so provided that this person has some spare time outside of social networking activities, would you join public procurement? And obviously the answer would be no, because that person doesn't know what public procurement is about. But the good news is that if you spend a little bit of time explaining to that person what's the outcome, the ultimate outcome of public procurement, that person would be much more excited about that. The ultimate outcome of public procurement is about getting the services that we have and we use every single day of our lives. And so I think public procurement is a simple answer to many things that we have accomplished over hundreds of years. And public procurement has been part of government for hundreds of years. There are extremely interesting engineering achievements that are part of this process. One that I like particularly is the Roman aqueduct of Segovia, very close to Madrid in Spain. This was built 2,000 years ago. Okay? Now, obviously, what happens if, as soon as I showed this picture, I would immediately sense your whispers and thoughts and say, come on, Gianluigi, this is such a baloney because, I mean, the Roman Empire didn't use competitive tendering processes to build aqueduct. They used slaves, okay? Well, normally, okay? The point is, this structure, this particular accomplishment gives us a sense on what we mean by a public work that has been properly done, okay? Now, the point is that in public procurement, things can go awry. And this is one major example, which is particularly sad, especially if you're an Italian. This is the Viaduct Morandi, named after the Italian engineer who designed it. It collapsed a month ago at around noon on August the 14th, killing 43 people, okay? It was built only 51 years ago, right? It was one of the major commuter links in the northwest of Italy. Okay? Investigators, they're having very busy time now working on this. They found out that basically there were alerts on structural damages that had been repeatedly ignored by all engineers, technical people. So how did this happen? Basically, pure communication between the concessionaires, safety team, and the government. So crucial information about structural aspects of these big infrastructure had been badly processed and possibly ignored, okay? So information management are keys in our societies, are keys in public procurement. And I think one of the reasons why I don't think I joined public procurement, I got interested in many of the complexities of our societies is because there is a lot in terms of understanding complexities and uncertainty, okay? Building models, conceptual frameworks to understand different dimensions of uncertainty is a difficult task. It's very challenging. It's almost daunting. But it's really exciting because it's about our lives, okay? And even when we make mistakes, mistakes are a fundamental step for a better understanding, okay? And this is exactly one of the, I would say, of the most powerful messages of fairly famous Nobel laureate in physics, Richard Feynman, who had a lot of the similar quotes about the importance of experimenting, of testing, of making mistakes, because this is what makes our knowledge more robust, more solid, okay? And let me draw for the second time something out of Jose Arieza's speech. At some point, while he was having a little bit of discussion with the supply chain professor yesterday, it was sort of teasing him a little bit, putting more emphasis on the importance of putting the hands on the business, the experience, rather than training in terms of theoretical training. But this is, I think, besides the provocative aspect of that part, this is, I think, was the fundamental message. The importance of trying new things and to accept the idea that we may fail. Now, when I sort of pronounce this sentence in public procurement world, these would immediately trigger thoughts like, you are a weird guy, comma, maybe crazy one, right? In public procurement, we're not supposed to fail, right? You're not supposed to fail. If you fail, you're out, right? But that's very counterintuitive. It's exactly that part of the world in which we need to explore new solutions, and at the same time, we pretend we don't have to fail. There was Sandra from Spain yesterday presenting a very, elegant and very lucid, bright speech about the importance of public procurement of innovation, right? Okay, buy new things, prototypes, new services, fantastic, right? Now, how are you going to buy innovation without accepting the idea of failing? And if you go to business school, the first thing they would teach you is that it's only the percentage of surviving ideas is 1 out of 1,000. So if you have 1,000 original ideas, maybe 1 out of 1,000 will go through the pipeline to get to a prototype. So how are you going to buy innovation in public procurement without accepting that risk? But accepting that risk means accepting the attitude of testing, of putting your hands in the business, of making your hands dirty, as dirty as possible, and accepting the idea that you may fail. And that's going to change. I'm going to go back to these again. I want to like to sort of see why information is important. Information is important because the nature itself of public procurement is changing. If you, just for a moment, not more than a moment, close your eyes and picture a road, a bridge, a building in a standard town. Now, it's very easy, and the way the traditional approach in public procurement sees those things are, on their own. But in fact, what's happening, it's happening that those objects, they're becoming more interconnected than we used to think, because they both together provide bundle of services, which are safety, communication, energy distribution services. And if those services, the features of those services change according to final users' behavior, then we get what we normally call a smart city. So if we will be living in smart cities in the near future, some of us are already living in smart cities, that means that the way we consider public procurement is not considering those objects as standalone objects, as silos. They have to be considered as ingredients generating a complex bundle of services. And if you generate those bundle of services, then information is the essential ingredient. Will not be able to adjust the nature of those services without exploiting the information coming out of that, okay? There are lots of types of information you need. I think that the point in handling information, exploiting information, is that there are a lot of dangers around the corner waiting for you, okay? For instance, there is the danger of using too little information, too little data, right? So not exploiting the potential of data. A few years ago, in 2014, I was sent by the World Bank to the Republic of Ethiopia for 2 missions. I was basically in charge of assessing the newborn centralized procurement system at the federal level. So, and a meeting was scheduled with 3 top officials, and we're supposed to hand me, evidence of savings achieved by the federal government by bundling common user items in big contracts. Okay, the kind of story we know very well. So they would listen to me very attentively, very kindly, and after some minutes, I would say after 30 minutes, one of the 3 just erupted and looked at me as if I were some sort of alien and said, why spending all this time hunting for information, for data? Why can't I just tell you what happened? Yeah, well, tell me, that's fine. So the point I want to make is that there was a tangible fear that I would draw conclusion by getting that information. I would draw different conclusion than what they had. Right? But it was, in fact, that was the ultimate purpose of my visit, right? Exactly to help them see things from a different perspective, right? So if one problem with data is to have too little data, not exploiting them, another big danger, which is sort of the opposite danger, is to use data blindly. Now, there is a very smart guy whose name is Tyler Vigen, who's a law student at Harvard. He has set up a fascinating, I consider this really one of the most fascinating websites I've seen recently, where he sort of illustrates circumstances where there are phenomena which are, from a statistical viewpoint, very strongly correlated, but it's very unlikely that there is any conceptual link between those phenomena. So, for instance, who among you would have bet on a strong positive correlation between the consumption of mozzarella cheese and the number of PhD awarded in civil engineering, right? So we surrender to the evidence that there is a strong correlation, but at the same time, we say this is bullshit, okay? It can be. There can be any logical correlation between the two, right? So the point is, I think that besides that nice picture, actually, if you go and log in, there are tens of those cases, which are really fascinating. Then the point, the bottom line is getting statistical measures of phenomena in here, in this case, or in public procurement, the starting point, but you need something more. You need a conceptual framework to understand whether or not all those correlations make sense, okay? It's not because there is a these two phenomena go hand in hand, that one is the sort of reason or the cause explaining the other phenomenon. Okay, I try to explain this to my daughters when we're engaged in sort of these sessions. I want to push the elder to study a little bit more mathematics, and I use the causal effect. I say, the more you study at home, the higher the chance that you get a better grade. So I take for granted that she wants to have a better grade, but obviously that's my assumption. That's not her assumption, but nonetheless. Okay, there is another problem of with misusing data, which is what I call, which I found this sort of the most interesting one, especially in public procurement, which is what I call the statistics of wishful thinking. Okay? So basically, is the idea of manipulating, jiggling with data a little bit so as to impress or to please others, say policymakers, your boss. Okay? And my preferred examples are the ones coming from my own experience. For instance, if I were to list the number of meetings that I've attended in the past, say, 12 years on electronic procurement, I would name all those meetings about electronic auctions, probably so the reverse auctions. So, according to my personal records in these particular kind of meetings, I've never heard any speaker presenting savings from reverse auction below 50%. So any number below 50 is just forbidden, okay? There's no way you can hear. Have you ever heard someone, showing up and say, oh, we've set up a very nice electronic system, we got 3% savings? And then all people applauded. Yeah, very good, 3%, very good. No, if you don't show at least 50%, you are nothing in this profession, right? This is one thing. The second thing was sort of closer to my experience as manager in a centralized agency. At some point, there was a big meeting in Europe among officials from centralized procurement, what we call central purchasing bodies. Agencies in charge of awarding big contracts, framework contracts for the government. So they were all coming from completely different countries, and they were showing up. And then, guess what? Each one of them, comprising my own colleagues, were showing outcomes in terms of performance, in terms of savings, just in between 19 to 21%. Each one of them, virtually the same number. Was kind of magic. I said, how is it possible? From the north of Europe, south of Europe, all of us have achieved, basically 20% discount, which is stable over time, right? So to me, the statistics of deception is a sort of an antidote against the statistic of deception. Sometimes, data show things you don't like, and so in a way, you tend to counter-react to this, and maybe the evidence is not as disappointing as the kind of evidence that this character, Alan Burnside, in a famous 2008 movie, mentioned. This is really disappointing, isn't it? Right? So this is one of the most disappointing things that can happen in our life. But nonetheless, the story is that we react to the evidence we collect. And so I think information is becoming more and more relevant, and the way we handle data, the way we collect data is going to influence. But we don't have to forget that the way we interpret that, it's almost never an automatic process. So even if you have the biggest machinery, the most sophisticated big data platform and artificial intelligence, algorithms, you name it, that's not the point. They're going to sort of help you dig into really complex phenomena, but ultimately, it's up to us to sort of superpose a conceptual framework to get useful information out of that. And why we need information? Because we need to move forward. We need to correct mistakes. We need to take new reforms, okay? And, my understanding about reform in public procurement is that policymakers around the world, so it's nothing to do with local region here, it's really a worldwide phenomenon, is that we've been comfortable with the idea of using an approach which was based mainly on the idea of principles and analogy. This is what I call principle. Principles is like, the idea that transparency is really the important thing. That's the holy grail in public procurement, right? Transparency. Everything has to be transparent. Why? Because, right? Well, there might be, sensible reasons for it, but we tend to take it for granted. Analogy has been used sometime when mimicking the allegedly self-evident successes from the private sector. When we have implemented, electronic procurement reforms, we've learned, or at least I think we pretended we had learned from the private sector experience. So e-commerce platform, electronic auction, they were a good thing, okay? But now times have changed. Now it's time to make deeper, more conscious decisions in terms of exploiting what we know, and we can know, things in finer details than we used to do 10 years ago, so that now next step could be put on solid pillars. And if you go back to the sort of metaphor, which is, I think, more than a metaphor, of a smart city, when you look at what happens there, when you look at what happens in terms of mobility as a service, we tend to conceive buildings as a flow of services. This is why we do PPPs, right? So we don't care about basically all the building details. We care about the flow of services that we will be using for 10, 20, 30 years ahead of time. So if you think in that terms, this is why we're using building information modeling in construction, right? In building information modeling is about information. It's exploiting, at its best, information to construct, to avoid things that were mentioned yesterday in terms of, I have the very aggressive bids and then the guy afterwards knocking at your door to get more money. No, when you exploit information through, building information modeling, that phenomenon should disappear, because you are able in real time to adjust structural features of the building and connect those structural features to economic aspects of that, okay? So information is one way of getting rid of normally low bid kind of phenomena that we've been discussing for decades, okay? And if we have to live in smart cities, and we will be living in smart cities, cities will become bigger and bigger and have to become smarter and smarter if you want to fulfill all the sustainability objectives that we have set for ourselves, okay? We need to exploit that information. Now, the point is information is scattered. It's managed by different organizations. It's stored in different silos, and sometimes we're lost because we say, oh, this is, we cannot handle that. But there are examples, for instance, the data and analytics framework experiment in Italy, in which we know we can handle data, we can gather data from different silos, put them together, and ask a team of data scientists and data visualization experts to build visual storytelling to deliver information about the data. So we don't have to worry about the way information was written, was stored. This is the power of technology. We don't have to worry anymore about those details. If we spend decades worrying about that, one piece of information is written, one code, the other is written another, the babel of codes to describe said phenomenon, these might get to an end thanks to what we have. But at the same time, this weaponry cannot replace the thinking, the interpretation. And so the way we learn from those results in terms of taking actions, okay? And it's not about, getting more information because we can supervise and we can get a better look at the vital infrastructure. This is not what this machinery is about. This machinery is about a new way of interpreting government, a new way of managing res publica, a new way of being citizen, right? So the point is, after all this story, you might wonder, okay, that's fine, Gianluigi, okay, we got impressed, more or less. What about lawyers? There will be as many lawyers as today in this world, with big data, artificial intelligence. So don't worry. Yes, there will be a lot of lawyers, always. But the point is, the good news is that lawyers and a few economists will be working alongside with other people with, different way of thinking, data scientists with new clothing, new tattoos. There will be a variety of different skills that will be involved in that. So I guess that I need to sort of come to a close by doing two things that I've been thinking for a while. First of all, it's interesting because there are two people missing here. One is alive and kicking, and is Ana Calderon Ramirez, who's gone back to Colombia for family reason, but she's in good shape. And I want to thank her. I want to thank Leslie, but I want to thank Anna for all the efforts, all the brains she's put in, building this idea of having panels and the topics. She's done a really good job. So I want to thank her. And at the same time, if you don't mind, I want to spend one sentence again for Joao Vega Malta. And the reason why I learned that yesterday, and I was really shocked because I have to tell you, I had a meeting with him. I met him for the first time a few years ago here in Washington during a meeting, and we were sitting together and talking in a very nice brainstorming session about framework agreements. And when I think of him, I think thanks to that initial conversation after one nice conference, I just rushed into thinking how to write a book on framework agreement. And actually, the book came out 2 years ago. And Joao, I think, played a big role in getting me on the right track to do that. So I want to thank him, and I want to thank you for your attention. Thank you.
So take that last seat. Let me grab that clicker. Can we have one more round of applause for Gianluigi? Thank you. All right, just one more reminder that we do have the interpretation devices for one of our presentations that will be in Portuguese, and it will be translated into English, correct? Just making sure, awesome. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce and bring up to the floor our four panelists: Vasil Zadvorny, CEO of Prozorro in the Ukraine; Cassiano Alves, Deputy Secretary of Management in the Ministry for Planning and Development in Brazil; Maurice Juma, General Director in the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority for Kenya; and Alejandro Rodriguez, Data Scientist for Data Compra in Colombia. Let's give them a round of applause. And our next presenter, Vasil, also known as Basil to Starbucks baristas, in case you run into him there, has spent over 17 years in the IT industry and now leads one of the most ambitious tech projects in the Ukraine, the Prozorro Electronic Public Procurement System. Vasil has become the CEO of Prozorro almost 2 years ago and declared in 2016 his intention to set international standards in public procurement, developing a true IT system out of the state-owned enterprise that now runs the Prozorro system. He has since successfully transformed the organization into a modern IT company while establishing a sustainable environment and securing the necessary reform. His work has led to the tripling in number of participants in the public procurement space. Please help me welcome Vasil, or Basil, to the stage. Here's your clicker.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, great. Really strange introduction as for me. But yeah, today I'm gonna talk to you, and I really appreciate being here and sharing the experience of Ukraine, the one of probably most exciting project I ever know, not only in the Ukraine but all over the world. Today we're going to talk a lot about how the data can be used within the public procurement, but just from curiosity, who are aware about the Prozorro and the Prozorro reform? Could you please raise your hand? Oh, wow, that's really exciting. Then I can skip a lot of slides with some kind of information, but still, I will start with a short presentation about the reform and then go deeper to the data. So probably if you heard, and we remind us each day about these days, about the events that take place in Ukraine in 2013, 2014. Basically, that's the place, the physical, geographical place where everything began in Ukraine. And well, I mean, the public procurement always been seen in Ukraine as a synonym of corruption. I used to work in IT companies within the country and outside the countries. And basically, we do have strictly banned to work with a governmental company at all. So I have heard a lot of really weird stories about how the money been stolen, how the guys just took this money from the governmental budget, and on our only high-level estimation, the number of money that being stolen from Ukrainian budget or being lost due to really low competencies level was up to 20%. That makes like up to 2.5 billion United States dollars on an annual base. So not surprisingly that the public procurement area was basically chosen by the volunteers as the area that should be fixed. And that's probably one of the most interesting part of the ProZorro story. ProZorro is not the reform that was done only by the governmental level. Rather, it's the story how the group of people, which basically gathered together on the streets, tried to fix and succeed to fix something in the governmental level. The only short explanation about the idea which really impacts how we do proceed and work with the data is about the golden triangle of partnership. We really do believe that in case of Ukraine and in case of other countries where the trust to the governmental structure might be pretty low, the governmental should do the only minimum amounts of efforts. That's why, in case of Ukraine, we build basically the public-private partnership between the governmental, commercial companies, and the civil society, which mean each of them can do what they can best. And in terms of technological part of the story, that also helped us to involve the capabilities and the competences of the privately owned companies, basically e-commerce companies, which really do have a lot of capabilities in building contact centers, in the customer support, in involving new customers, in order to achieve significant results. Just few figures I will show you today. So we got approximately 1 million transactions on an annual basis, 1 million procurement procedures. We managed to save for the country approximately 1 billion of United States dollars on the annual basis. And the expected value of the conducted procedures reach approximately 30 billions of United States dollars on the annual basis. The interesting part of the story is about the suppliers. So we do have 600,000 legal entities being registered in Ukraine. And only like a 5–10% of them previously took part in the public procurement. With the implementation of like fully electronic system, we significantly increased the number of suppliers, and right now we do have approximately 200,000. And that's another impact of electronic system here. I should spend like 2 minutes in order to explain how really what really stands behind the technical part of ProZorro, because it's kind of complicated part of the technological component. So we do have the component which called central database, pretty weird from the technical point of view. And it is the only part, it's like RESTful API database, and it is the only part which is owned by the government. So these central units contains all the information about all the procedures being held, contain all the algorithms that are being used for the public procurement procedures. and basically that's it. We do not have any kind of interface in order to conduct the transaction. In contrast, we do have 23 at the moment marketplaces, which basically works as the brokers on the stock exchange, and which allows to get an access to all this data. So you can use, as a procuring entity or suppliers, any of these marketplaces. And independently on what marketplace does the procuring entity use, the suppliers may use another one in order to place the bid, in order to take part in the procurement. These schemes also allows us to make a fully sustainable, basically, financial model. So the suppliers pays for placing the bid in the system. Part of this money goes to the central database, means to the state-owned enterprise Prozoro, and then part of that money being rebate to those marketplaces which was chosen by the procuring entity, basically. Why we did so? With these schemes, we achieved three results on a parallel. First of all, we built a competence market between the marketplaces or brokers, because they're interested in involving and retention the suppliers. So that's increased the competences, and that increase the savings, basically, in the public procurement. Second of all, the marketplaces are also interested to provide the service to the procuring entities. That's increased the service to the contracting authority, which are basically didn't get this service from the state-owned enterprise. And third of all, we involve, as I already mentioned, the capabilities which state-owned enterprise doesn't have at all. If you wouldn't be lucky, you might see the governmental websites developed by Ukrainian state-owned enterprise, and then you can feel my pain. But believe me, they look like really awful. In contrast, we do have in a Prozoro system absolutely modern e-commerce platforms which works and provides like the standard international level services to the contracting authorities and the suppliers. Basically, these schemes really impact how we do work with the data and how we do work with the information. Just several notices before I go to the data. So we really do implement the OCDS as a data scheme for the Prozoro. And as for now, I mean, last half a year, it's been recognized as the key competences for all business analysts works for the Prozoro system, because it really allows us to enforce and to speed up the development. So we do not need to spend a lot of hours to develop the data structure. We just can rely on the data structure that was already discussed and agreed upon the experts. Okay, I wouldn't stood up a lot on our core values. The only thing really worth mentioning here is the only probably two things. Well, first of all, Prozoro basically translated from Ukraine means transparent. So it's not only like sounds similar to those guys who beat the corrupted person, but it also means transparent in Ukraine. That's why we not only show all the data to publicly owned data to all over the world, basically, but we also open the code. So we really use the open source code, and from our perspective, it is the capability that will enforce us in the future as well, because we can involve a lot of guys to develop the system and to spend the effort there. And we really do use an agile software development approach, which means short-term development, short releases, minimum valuable product testing, early feedbacks from the market, which allows us to get the feedback as early as we can. So yeah, the timeline, you can see it afterwards in my presentation. I wouldn't base here a lot. Several words about the data. Well, first of all, I wasn't 100% honest when I said that we do not have any kind of interface. We do have a publicly owned website, but it works only as a search engine for the publicly owned procedure. Right now, you can see all the data publicly available about any kind of procurement procedures with this like a Google-like web search on a Prozoro Gov.ua website. And we spend a lot of time to make it easy, to make it fast, and to make it publicly available. And by the way, it's the first feedback I have heard from the controlled bodies, from the police department when I took the place of CEO was, oh, Prozoro is really great. We now shouldn't spend like weeks in order to write official mail to the government to get all the data about the procurement. Now you can do it in right one click. But that's only the hive of the iceberg. We build the publicly business intelligence model because we have approximately 1,000 variables available for the analysis purposes. Again, available through the REST API of the central database, which means right now with the help of Qlik, you can get all the information about all the procurement with these fancy dashboards. Availability of data opened the next step. We also built like the risk indicator system, which helped us to drill down into the behavioral patterns of both suppliers and the customers. So based on several signatures, patterns, behaviors, we can now indicate risks. And at the end of this week, like in 2 days, the state audit services will go online, which means that these risk indicators automatically will raise a red flag and initiate kind of controlling procedure in order to prevent the wrongdoings in the public procurement. Moreover, right now it's more than 10 business intelligence tools built by basically non-governmental organization. So without any kind of investment from the governmental level. It's only a couple of them presented right now here, but based on OCP research, it's approximately 14 of them were on the March this year. So that means that as much journalists and civil society activists right now can be involved into controlling of how the basically taxpayers' money are being spent, and they are not only relied on the information that are provided by the government. They can choose between the different business intelligence tools. Worth to mention here the initiatives that was risen by the Transparency International Ukraine. So we really use Uber, we really use Booking.com, Airbnb, and so on and so forth. Why not to use it in public procurement as well? So right now we do have a system which provide the possibility to both suppliers and the contracting authority to put the ratings. Yes, this rating does not use in order to shape the procurement procedures. But again, you can see how you are being seen by another side, and that might impact your behavior. That basically impacts your behavior already. Just several words about the data. We do have like approximately 50 terabytes of data. It's like 5 times bigger than the data being stored in the Congress Library here in DC. More than 1,000 variables I already mentioned. And well, the interesting part of this news that approximately 90% of this data are unstructured data. It's a text or either an uploaded documents which are being uploaded in the system. That's why, I mean, not surprisingly, that we also started to work on the disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning. 3 main streams currently are used in Ukraine is, well, for monitoring, I already mentioned, means identifying potential wrongdoings, not only on the patterns, but the machine learning algorithms was launched this July in order to make it to understand the feedback from the civil society as well. We also built a system which can predict which number of suppliers will come to the procurement procedure in order to help the contracting authority announce this procedure as much attractive to the suppliers as we can. And basically like commonly used in e-commerce recommendation system. So it's targeting suppliers by understanding what was written in the tender documentation. It is the third stream we already use. Just a fancy picture from the data science hackathon we conducted with the data science activists and students in Ukraine this February. You can see that this blue bar, basically, that's the impact of the feature which include text analysis into the prediction precisely. Well, and basically this picture is all about the preciseness of prediction based on the text data. So understanding what was behind the text, what are used in the text is really crucial. We also built several tools upon of the data, for example, the library of typical specification, which can help you to define how to describe the commodity or services you would like to purchase. As it was told yesterday, from my perspective, not only technical part for the procurement and for the technology is important. Basically, again, it's all about the marketing as well. So we conduct aggressive marketing campaigns at the beginning, and still the number of marketing guys in our company approximately equal to the number of the developers as well. Several stuff about our awards. I'm not sure if I should show it to you, but my marketing guys asked me to do that. And at the end, because I already took 1 minute more time, so still, what are the top priority goals for us right now? Definitely increase the number of transactions by increasing the number of procedures that were developed. So the more transactions, the more data we can gather. Increase the data quality. We already told something about the data quality yesterday, and probably that's the path with no ending. We always can increase it. And gather as much data as we can, transfer as much data in the structured way as we can, and build the like text recognition upon of that we cannot. The picture of our product backlog, and definitely, yeah, it wouldn't be able with our brilliant team. Interesting thing about the public procurement reform in Ukraine is that it is basically not the story about the technology. As it was mentioned in the YES conference, which took place in Kiev last weekend, it is not the technology that changes the world. It is the people and idea which change the world with the help of technology. So keep calm and do Prozoro. Thank you a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Vasil. Thank you very much. Our next presenter will be presenting in Portuguese. In case you need your headset, this is the time to put it on. Cassiano Alves, Deputy Secretary of Management in the Ministry for Planning and Development in Brazil. Cassiano is the Assistant Secretary of Management in the Ministry of Planning and Development and Management, and represents the Ministry of Planning, Development, and Management in the Inter-American Government Procurement Network. In the Secretariat of Management, he coordinates the Directorate of Standards and Logistics Systems and the Purchasing Center of the federal government, which has developed relevant projects in recent years, such as the direct purchase of air tickets, TaxiGov, SciCaf 100% Digital, panel prices of the federal government, and the National Network of Public Purchases. In his spare time, Cassiano is a photographer and has led a project that generates resources to help poor people in a city through his photography. Ultimately, the resources raised through the sale and making of his photography are donated to women and children in very difficult situations in his homeland. Please help me welcome Cassiano Alves to the stage.
Ok. Bom dia a todos. Primeiro, agradecer ao BID, ao EA e à RIG por proporcionar a participação do Brasil nessa conferência e, pela primeira vez, poder falar na língua pátria, que é a língua portuguesa, que nos dá um pouco mais de segurança em passar a informação. Então, BID, muito obrigado, OEA, RIG, por proporcionar essa facilidade. Bom, nós brasileiros somos muito competitivos e às vezes até um pouco, diria, masoquistas, né? Sofremos, 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 mas não conseguimos nos desconectar, né, do futebol. E falar de competitividade e futebol, para nós, não está um ambiente muito favorável. Então, vamos optar por falar de dados abertos, que talvez nos dê uma condição melhor. Todos conseguem entender? Ok, eu vi algumas pessoas colocando a mão no fone, pensei que tivesse algum problema. Pois bem, vamos falar de dados abertos. Temos vários rankings, né, várias metodologias de análise de posicionamento dos países em relação a dados abertos. O Brasil está, entendemos, numa posição relativamente satisfatória em relação a dados abertos, apesar de que necessitamos ainda fazer alguns ajustes nos nossos portais de dados para que eles fiquem 100% alinhados às regras e ao que prevê e sugere os organismos internacionais e a OCP. Mas vamos para falar de dados abertos, nós temos que entender alguns números que ocorrem no Brasil, e eu vou me antecipar e responder uma das perguntas que estão elencadas nesse painel: por que é tão difícil fazer gestão de compras públicas? Porque é tão difícil construir indicadores, monitorar e fazer análise de compras públicas. E eu vou fazer um recorte muito específico do Brasil. Então, vejam, aqui o Brasil, 19 bilhões de dólares em compras públicas, sendo que 10 bilhões diretamente relacionados a compras eletrônicas, pregão eletrônico. Isso nos dá, em termos de quantidade de processos licitatórios, em torno de 60% das nossas compras são feitas por pregão eletrônico. Temos alguns parâmetros de tempo, em média 64 minutos, entre a abertura e o fechamento de um pregão eletrônico, em média 6 participantes por licitação, o que, segundo o Banco Mundial, é uma média interessante e que ajuda na economicidade da compra, do gasto. 90 mil usuários do Comprasnet, depois eu vou explicar exatamente onde se concentram esses usuários, e o Comprasnet é o nosso sistema de compras eletrônicas, e em torno de 45 dias para homologar uma licitação, e fizemos, em 2017, 50 mil sessões de pregão eletrônico. E vou explicar agora, alguns senhores já conhecem o Brasil, mas vou tentar detalhar um pouco a sua realidade em termos de desafios. Então, nós somos 27 estados federados, unidades federadas, e 5.570 municípios. Então, o que é importante compreender? Nós temos, minimamente, 6.000 unidades de compras independentes no país. E essas unidades de compras nem sempre estão conectadas, nem sempre estão alinhadas ou no mesmo patamar de qualidade de sistemas eletrônicos de compra e até de processos de compras, apesar de termos uma lei federal, uma lei central, uma regra geral de compras no Brasil. E todos aqueles dados que eu passei para os senhores, eles refletem diretamente essa pequena cidade administrativa de em torno de 16 quilômetros quadrados, que é a esplanada dos ministérios. Então, é o governo central. E nosso maior desafio hoje é entender o que acontece no governo subnacional, como criar dados de do Estado brasileiro a partir de compras públicas. Esse é um desafio. É um dado que não temos, é um dado que é uma informação que nos incomoda não ter, e buscamos de diversas maneiras, eu vou explicar mais ao final, como alcançar esses dados. E temos realidades muito distintas nesses 5.570 municípios. São Paulo, 12 milhões de habitantes. São Paulo Estado, 34 milhões de habitantes, próximo aí de alguns países, maior que muitos países em termos geográficos, em termos populacionais. Tem uma renda per capita relativamente alta e um orçamento muito significativo. Por outro lado, nós temos cidades bucólicas. Como é o nome dessa cidade, Wesley? Serra da Saudade, que tem menos de 1.000 habitantes, mas tem lá um comprador público, tem lá um ordenador de despesa, alguém que vai pagar uma conta. Então, veja que são realidades muito distintas e que nós precisamos vencer esse gap entre grandes capitais e pequenas cidades. E, para isso, desenvolvemos ferramentas. Tenho aqui a ferramenta do CIASG, o Comprasnet, que já vamos para quase 20 anos de existência, mas que foi criada a partir de necessidades pontuais. E essas necessidades pontuais elas foram se revelando também com as mudanças de legislação, de normas, e foram feitos ajustes. Esse ajuste se tornou um sistema pesado, complexo e caro, e que, às vezes, não retorna os dados necessários que precisamos para gerar informações que são necessárias para se desenvolver as políticas públicas. Então, aí vem a primeira, que eu diria, iniciativa brasileira para romper essa situação de continuismo e, disruptivamente, inovar. São 5 frentes que nós, do Ministério do Planejamento, que tutelamos, além da política de compras públicas no Brasil, a inovação, os processos de inovação no governo brasileiro. E, em parceria com um departamento interno nosso, desenvolvemos algumas iniciativas, alguns planos para vencer essa necessidade de criar dados confiáveis, dados íntegros, que pudessem direcionar o governo brasileiro para a criação e formulação de políticas públicas mais efetivas e com expectativa de resultados melhores. Então, vou passar rapidamente por cada um deles. Primeiro é o PGC, é o Plano de Gerenciamento de Contratações, que impõe a todos os órgãos, a todos os compradores públicos, a necessidade de programar as suas compras com 1 ano de antecedência. É o princípio da previsibilidade. Eu tenho que saber o que eu vou comprar no ano que vem para criar condições favoráveis para compras centralizadas, compras compartilhadas, ganhar em escala. Então, é um sistema que está sustentado por um normativo, um decreto presidencial, que direciona os compradores do governo federal a se programarem preventivamente. E isso ajuda tanto os gestores máximos, que no caso das pastas são os ministros, quanto os pregoeiros, que são as pessoas, os agentes de compra que estão na ponta e que conseguem organizar melhor o seu fluxo de trabalho no ano. O SICAF 100% digital. O SICAF 100% digital, ele trata a base de dados dos fornecedores do governo brasileiro. Hoje, essa base conta com aproximadamente 400 mil fornecedores e, até alguns meses atrás, ela era alimentada de uma forma manual, ou seja, o fornecedor teria que ir a uma entidade cadastradora com documentos e fazer reconhecimento de firma em cartório, entrega documentos, entrega cópias, está faltando, entrega novamente, enfim. Era um custo muito grande para o fornecedor e para o governo brasileiro. Com o SICAF 100% digital, extermina-se efetivamente o uso de papel de qualquer documento físico para esse cadastramento, e aqui tem uma geração de economia fantástica. Bastou implantar o SICAF 100% digital no governo brasileiro e 4 mil funcionários públicos puderam ser realocados. Vejam, tínhamos 4 mil funcionários públicos que se dedicavam integralmente a cuidar de papéis. Hoje, esses funcionários, esses servidores estão alocados em outras unidades ligadas a compras públicas, o que nos dá uma eficiência, digamos, fantástica. Uma outra ferramenta fundamental e de grande valia para a abertura de dados é o painel de preços. Talvez eu digo que, com certeza, no segmento de compras públicas no Brasil, o painel de preços tenha sido a primeira grande ferramenta de abertura de dados no que tange levar o dado ao cidadão mais comum, o cidadão mais simples, que queira saber simplesmente quanto o país paga por um helicóptero, por um tanque, por um carro blindado, ou até mesmo por um copo, uma caneta, um material de expediente, uma alimentação escolar, a merenda escolar que falamos no Brasil. Foi muito utilizado no seu lançamento para poder não só contribuir para o trabalho do comprador público, na medida em que ele reduz a fase de pesquisa de mercado, de precificação, que era de até 15 dias no Brasil, porque você tinha que ligar nos fornecedores, mandar e-mails, mandar fax. Acreditem, alguns lugares ainda usavam fax no Brasil para fazer cotação de preço. E hoje, essa pesquisa de preço que durava 15 dias se reduziu em torno de 7 minutos uma pessoa, um comprador, consegue fazer uma pesquisa de mercado. Painel de custeio, monitoramento de custeio, uma outra ferramenta também de dados abertos fantásticas que contribuiu para que o gestor pudesse enxergar como ele está fazendo a divisão do seu recurso dentro da sua unidade institucional. No seu lançamento, nós percebemos, vou usar um exemplo bem clássico, sem citar nomes, obviamente, que determinado órgão público, em pleno século XXI, considerando que o Brasil, no governo brasileiro, não se usa mais papel para nada, utilizamos o processo eletrônico nacional, ou seja, o processo da sua abertura, o seu arquivamento, ele é 100% digital. Uma plataforma chamada Sistema Eletrônico de Informações, desenvolvida pelo Tribunal Regional Federal da 4ª Região e cedido pelo governo brasileiro, colaborativamente, extermina o uso do papel, o que deu uma eficiência fantástica em termos de celeridade nos processos, de abertura de dados e de visibilidade. Pois bem, mesmo em face desse sistema, determinado órgão estava usando 50% do seu orçamento de custeio da administração para comprar papel ou serviços associados a papel. Então, esse painel foi fundamental nesse sentido para que órgãos de controle fizessem a devida investigação, as devidas diligências e procurassem entender por que o consumo tão alto de papel, sendo que não se usa mais papel na administração pública. Pois bem, o painel de custeio ele é hoje uma das principais ferramentas para a formulação de políticas de gastos das instituições, na medida em que retorna informações exatas de 23 itens de custeio, que vão desde aquisição de papel, serviço de limpeza, vigilância e outros serviços para a manutenção das instituições. Nosso portal de compras públicas também é um sistema que já está funcionando há 20 anos, como eu disse, e hoje ele está muito mais robusto, muito mais confiável, porque consegue coletar dados de diversas fontes e gerar informações fidedignas, que são aquelas informações que eu coloquei a inicial. Obviamente, é um sistema que está em constante evolução, na medida em que o Brasil experimenta, nos últimos 5 anos, muitas alterações legislativas, normativas, e que nos impõem determinada necessidade de evoluir o sistema. A API de compras governamentais, que é a conexão, a centralização dessas informações de compras dos diversos órgãos, que geram também dados estatísticos, alguns indicadores que contribuem para o desenvolvimento da nossa política de compra. O portal de transparência é outra fonte importantíssima de abertura de dados, na medida em que ele não traz somente dados de compras públicas, mas de toda a despesa do governo, inclusive despesa de pessoal. Eu só tenho mais 1 minuto e 30 segundos, então eu vou para a cereja do bolo. O futuro. Então, como um Brasil tão grande, com 6.000 unidades de compras independentes, praticamente, como esse Brasil vai se organizar para gerar dados que possam gerar informações, que possam ser efetivamente abertas. Entendemos que a melhor forma de se abrir dados é construir dados que possam ser abertos. Difícil recuperar informações que já foram construídas, dados que foram construídos há muito tempo atrás com determinada deficiência. Então, focamos o futuro em colaboração. Imagine uma república federativa em que você tem estados e municípios relativamente autônomos e que não se deixam simplesmente levar por autoridades centrais, mas que essa autoridade precisa saber essas informações dessas unidades para construir políticas públicas que impactarão nesses estados, nesses municípios. Então, trabalhamos em rede. Temos 2 redes principais. A primeira é a rede para excelência na eficiência pública, que busca consolidar, buscar, prospectar com todos os seus entes as melhores práticas de processos, na medida em que ele coleta informações, gera produtos e disponibiliza esses produtos em forma de projetos, em forma de programas. Então, é uma rede relativamente nova, foi lançada há muito pouco tempo, e vejam que ela tem outras vertentes, além de compras públicas, como logística pública, tecnologia e gestão de pessoas. Essa rede ela é feita em colaboração com a Universidade de Brasília, a academia. O Ministério do Planejamento tem essa característica de buscar na academia profissionais, estudantes, pesquisadores, cientistas que contribuem para o desenvolvimento do Estado. E somente essa rede poderia dar uma palestra de 3 horas, né, que eu poderia compartilhar com o meu colega Wesley, que está aqui na plateia, que é o diretor de logística. Mas, enfim, ela nos dá uma perspectiva de melhora fundamental na medida em que estados e municípios, e não só estados e municípios, outros pesquisadores, outras instituições possam contribuir para essas vertentes, oferecendo boas práticas, oferecendo projetos relevantes que, de certa forma, inovam nessas 4 vertentes. Já estou concluindo. E esse aqui que eu diria, como disse o Roger, um dos meus grandes orgulhos, que é a criação da Rede Nacional de Compras Públicas, e eu me orgulho, efetivamente, de ter dado o passo inicial, juntamente com a Ana Desolte. Não estou conseguindo ver a Ana aqui. Ana está ali. Se a rede tivesse um pai e uma mãe, eis o pai, a mãe está sentada ali na 6ª fileira. E foi um esforço muito grande que tivemos de conquistar os dirigentes, não só do governo federal, mas de outras esferas de governo, para que efetivamente entrassem nessa rede, que essa rede, para que ela pudesse efetivamente gerar esse dado do Estado brasileiro de compras públicas. Então, quiçá daqui, não sei, 3, 4 anos, possamos estar em outra conferência da RIG mostrando os primeiros resultados da Rede Nacional de Compras Públicas, que foi lançado em junho desse ano, e que já conta com vários estados que são partícipes. E esse evento aqui, ele é muito emblemático para o Brasil, nessa nossa iniciativa, nesse esforço de reunir o governo central com os governos subnacionais. E aqui eu quero fazer referência aos meus 3 colegas, Hamilton, representando o estado do Rio Grande do Sul, Leonardo, representando o Distrito Federal, né, que é um estado e é um município ao mesmo tempo, e a Rita, representando a Bolsa Eletrônica de São Paulo. Então, essa é a primeira vez que temos registro de uma participação do Brasil nos seus 3 níveis de governo. Isso, para a gente, é muito importante, na medida em que fortalece a iniciativa da Rede Nacional de Compras, que enxergamos ser o melhor caminho para alcançarmos esse dado de compra pública brasileiro. Nos inveja um pouco ver países como a Ucrânia, como outros países da RIG, que conseguem chegar e mostrar os dados do país inteiro, e sempre tivemos esse nó na garganta de nunca poder falar assim, o Brasil é assim compras públicas. Quiçá daqui a 3 anos possamos ter essa possibilidade, já dizendo os primeiros resultados da rede. Alice não é uma jovem senhora, Alice é um sistema de BI que o controle, o Tribunal de Contas do Brasil desenvolveu juntamente com outras 2 soluções, chamada Mônica e Sofia, né? O brasileiro é um pouco criativo para poder batizar os seus sistemas. Alice é um BI que faz a leitura automática de diversos editais, diversos chamamentos públicos e busca, por meio da máquina inteligente, achar possíveis falhas, possíveis indícios de malversação do recurso público, indícios de fraude ou indícios de uma licitação que possa ser deficitária. Para nós, será a primeira grande entrega da Rede Nacional de Compras Públicas, na medida em que ela alimentará um repositório único e que todo o Brasil poderá utilizar, desde os estados até os municípios. Pois bem, não poderia terminar a minha fala, né, como fotógrafo que sou, falar do que eu quero do futuro, para um dos olhares mais lindos que o mundo já viu, que é o meu filho, o Lucas, o Cuquinhas. A minha esposa, eu passei o link para ela, não sei se ela está vendo, mas aí está o Cuquinhas, que é uma dos motivos pelos quais trabalho tanto para tornar um Estado melhor, um mundo melhor, não só o Brasil, porque creio que as crianças daqui a alguns anos morarão no mundo, não terão hoje já é assim, né? Muitos de nós vivemos fora de nossos países. Então, onde eu vou, eu levo o Lucas comigo, e como daqui eu vou para o Egito né, trabalhar no Egito ainda por alguns dias e muita saudade, não poderia terminar a minha apresentação sem mostrar esses dois olhares mais lindos que o mundo já viu, o Luquinhas e a Maria Fernanda, que é a minha filhinha de 3 meses, né, que eu estou morrendo de saudade dela. Também estou morrendo de saudade da minha esposa, só aparece a mão dela ali, que ela não deu os direitos autorais da imagem dela, então, e como os meus filhos ainda têm algum tipo de ascendência, não tive que pedir autorização. Senhores, muito obrigado por ouvir.
Muito obrigado, Graciano. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Maurice Juma, who is responsible for monitoring, assessing, and reviewing procurement systems in the public sector of Kenya. He has participated in the establishment of structures and setting up of the Public Procurement Oversight Authority and recruitment of senior management and staff for that organization. He has initiated and developed the tools and formats, including the procedures, filing requests for appeals at the Public Procurement Complaints Review and Administrative Review Board, and was its secretary before being appointed as the Director General of the PPRA. He has also led the development of the standard operating procedures and documents required in each department that has been examined by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, which resulted in his organization being ISO compliant. Please help me welcome Maurice to the stage.
Good morning. Now, I feel honored to be here to make a presentation on the Kenyan case, where we came from in terms of the public procurement system and where we are headed to in this digital era. Now, first of all, before I go to my presentation, is what I can say about the Kenyan public procurement system is that we are about 30,000, in excess of 30,000 public procuring entities that are required to comply with the law that governs public procurement. One of the issues here that I'd like to bring to the attention of this audience is that from the time we had an environment to conduct business in the public sector, is that all of us in the country were calling for reforms in the public procurement system in the country. And the government, with the assistance of development partners, mounted a serious diagnostic survey that was conducted in the entire country. At least we had a point where to start from, and we are headed towards achieving the target that was set through digitization of the public procurement system. Now, this is the outline of my presentation. I've just made a brief introduction. Then I'll go to the historical highlights, how we started the journey towards digitizing our procurement process, the current procurement process under integrated financial management system, and then I'll conclude and then give some suggestions on the way forward. Now, on introduction, e-procurement in Kenya was loosely arranged under the public procurement system that we had in 2005. And Public Procurement Oversight Authority, which transited to Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, was responsible for coming up with a system that will guide on implementation of e-procurement. Now, before we could finalize the process, the Act of 2005 was repealed in 2016 with a new act through the Constitution of Kenya. Now, in our public procurement system, the law that governs public procurement system is anchored in Article 227 of the Constitution. So basically what I'm saying is that all that is required in the Kenyan system is that you must also conform to the constitutional requirements. Now, in the current procurement dispensation that we have, e-procurement is recognized there. And I can say here that where you have sound legal framework of conducting procurement, it must be backed by a legal framework. Now, in the years between 1963 up to 1969, when the country was still young after gaining independence, there were no structures in place to carry out procurement. So the body that was responsible to do procurement in Kenya was Crown Agents. Between 69 and 78, the National Treasury, which is responsible for financial management, was issuing policy circulars to guide on conducting public procurement in the country. Again, where you don't have a legal framework within which to anchor any policy that you issue, then even public entities may not comply with those instructions that are given. Which is why between the period 1978 to 2001, the government developed a manual that would facilitate or guide public entities on how to conduct the public procurement system. In the history of the country, in 2001, we had regulations that were issued by the minister under the Exchequer and Audit Act. And for the first time, all public entities were required to conduct their procurements through the Exchequer and Audit Act of 2001. Now, between 2005 and 2015, we had a law that I've mentioned that is anchored on the Constitution of Kenya. And this is the law that was repealed in 2016 through the constitutional requirements that required that all procurement laws, all laws that govern the country must be anchored on a specific article of the country. And currently, between 2015 and current, we have a procurement law that is realigned to the constitutional requirements, is realigned to best procurement practices, which, again, a forum like this, we use it also to borrow some ideas to improve on how we are conducting our public procurement process. And also, we are looking at what are the emerging issues, particularly in this era of information technology, which is why we use such opportunities to improve on how we are conducting our public procurement system. Now, this is the journey which I've just tried to simplify from 2007 up to the current. Now, why I've narrowed down to 2007 is that is the time that the country was looking towards having e-procurement system in place. As the regulator in charge of monitoring public procurement in the country, we developed an e-procurement strategy, which basically means that we had set some targets, stages, and the requirements that, and the path that we need to follow to come up with the e-procurement statement of work in 2009. Now, the statement of works is basically the specifications that we required for an e-procurement to be put in place. Now, in 2011, now we ran into some problems. Now, dissatisfied bidders in our country have got an opportunity, to file requests for reviews or complaints or appeals on a procurement process. And given that this is the time that, we had a new constitution in place, and the constitution has expanded democracy in terms of, you can file an appeal through an administrative process or even through the judicial review. So that particular procurement didn't go very far. And National Treasury, which is our parent ministry as a regulator, took over from where we left and re-engineered IFMIS, which I've just mentioned, on procurement to pay module. So under IFMIS, we have a module there that is based on an e-procurement that public entities use to procure goods, works, and services. Now, in 2016, that is 2 years ago, after rolling out the e-procurement system in the entire country, the government has decided to review the impact of e-procurement that is being operated under IFMIS. And the reason why this is being done is there is some school of thought that argues that e-procurement should be a standalone system rather than being under IFMIS. Where we came from up to the current is that previously, all the methods that we used to have in the country was manual-based. Manual tendering would mean that we advertise tenders, bidders return the bids in hard copies, evaluation is done in the same manner, and award made through issuance of local purchase order. And then invoice and payment is done. Now, all these processes were manual-based. Now, where we are currently, just a diagrammatic presentation there that all these processes, ranging from procurement plan up to payment, is through e-procurement platform. Now, the issue here that I'd like to share with you is that even in the procurement plan, which entities are required to upload in the system, and this is part of the budget preparation process, and that suppliers must get involved in this system. We conducted a sensitization and training of suppliers on what is expected of them, what is required of them in order to participate in the electronic procurement system. All these processes, requisitions are made by requesters online. Quotations and tenders are required to be submitted online. Contracts are formulated online. Orders are made again through online system. Items are delivered, invoice is prepared, and payment is effected through an online system. Now, this is one of the methodologies that we have put in place to compress the time within which a procurement transaction is carried out. Because in my view, procurement is about compressing time, finalizing the process in real time, implementing projects, delivering goods, and payment as the last point of call before the contract management implementation team is put in place to ensure that whatever contracts are being performed, whatever deliveries are being made, whatever services are being rendered are done in accordance with the agreed framework. Now, in terms of enhancing transparency and giving information, data to the general public on what is happening in the procurement sphere, how public funds are being expended, who is involved in supplying goods, carrying out works, and delivering, and even carrying out assignments. Now, the government issued an executive order to be implemented by all public entities. And this was necessitated with the need to open transparency and also accessible government information as envisaged in the Constitution. Now, what is expected of public entities with respect to this is that public entities are required to disseminate information through various means, for example, in their websites. And we have a portal that the government has put in place for purposes of transacting business. We call it e-Citizen. And as the regulator, we also have platforms. So the public entities have got various opportunities on how to disseminate the information. Now, this information is expected to be uploaded by the public entities on themselves by the 15th day of the ensuing month. And the data that is posted on these platforms includes the bidder, the value of the contract, the time within which the contract is supposed to be performed, description of the item, the value, who evaluated that tender, That is, those people who participated in making, recommendations to the accounting officer to make an award. And it is expected that all public entities will publish ongoing contracts as well. Now, this is part of the wider scheme that the government has put in place for purposes of enhancing transparency and also dealing with the issue of corruption. Because within some sectors, it is said that the moment you mention the word procurement, then the next word that is likely to come out is corruption. So as part of dealing with that aspect of giving people information, the data that is available, now this is the directive that the government put in place. And this is just what I mentioned that should go into the contents of the portal to be uploaded by public entities. We also have the market price index, which public entities must use in terms of making informed procurement decisions. Variations that entities also carry out have to be included in that portal. And it is again as this background that we as the regulator, our parent ministry, Kenya Revenue Authority, developed a public procurement information portal where this information will be posted. Now, in conclusion, I'd like to say that the e-procurement that we have in place has been in play for 4 years now, and the government has decided to review its impact so that it will inform its improvement and the application that has so far been implemented. And I believe that we're on the right course. Since we have started this journey, we are not through with it. I can't say that we are halfway, but we are heading in the right direction. And this is an improvement. If you look at the previous dispensation that we had, that was manual-based, and now we are in the digital era. Now, going forward, I've mentioned digitizing procurement, oversight, that is monitoring, is the way to go. And this is something that is work in progress. We are looking at this. And even the administrative procurement system, this is a system where bidders file their complaints, is being digitized. And finally, all the will, because I believe that if there's political goodwill, then we'll have an interoperability capability with IFMIS. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I would like just to mention one thing about affirmative action. In Kenya, what we have, since we believe that small and medium enterprises is the driving force of the economy, we have put in place through a legal framework opportunities for youth, women, and persons with disability to participate in public procurement opportunities to the extent that 30% of procurement spent for each procuring entity must be set aside for these disadvantaged groups. It's a legal framework, is in place, and the regulator, where I work, is monitoring this aspect and filing reports to the National Assembly after every 6 months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maurice. Our next speaker is Alejandro Rodriguez. Alejandro is a data scientist and partner at Galapagos Agroconsultores SAS, a company dedicated to making agricultural companies economically profitable, environmentally sustainable, and socially responsible. Alejandro has a master's degree in information technology for business intelligence from the TU Berlin in Germany, where he received the award for being the top student in his program. Alejandro is a consultant to the Inter-American Developmental Bank, and has experience managing and training business intelligence teams in large organizations, universities, and early-stage ventures in Africa, Europe, the United States, and Colombia. He currently resides in Bucaramanga, Colombia, with his future wife, Dana, and close to his family, where he is fulfilling his dream of working on projects that use data to optimize processes, make better decisions, innovate, and contribute to the economic and social development of Colombia. Please help me welcome to the stage Alejandro Rodriguez.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I came here to tell you about a dream that is starting to become true thanks to open data and thanks to the initiatives that we have seen in this panel and in the conference so far. But before I start, I would like to recap a little bit on the recent history of open data. During a TED Talk in 2009, Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the World Wide Web, asked the world to open the data. He strongly believed in the power of sharing the data and building things together. At that time, he specifically asked to open the raw data. So I'm going to ask you, how many of you know what raw data is? Okay, some of you. Anyway, I'm going to give you an example. Since we are in a procurement conference, I'm going to give you an example of my personal procurement data. I know that in 2015, 10% of my expenses were groceries. This is aggregated data. This is already a summary of the raw data. Now, this is the raw data. Every line you see on that table is a transaction that I did in 2015, where you have each line, each row has a date, a location, a currency, a value. So yes, I am a data geek. I use data not only for work, but also for my personal life. With raw data, you have many possibilities. You can view the data by month, by year, by location, by supplier. You can build everything that we have discussed in the conference so far, machine learning, artificial intelligence, everything depends on the raw data. When you have aggregated data, you don't have many possibilities. So going back to the Tim Berners petition in 2009, since then we have seen several projects that show the power of sharing the data. One of my favorites is the one that it's what happened in Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake. So satellite images were released after the earthquake, and volunteers around the world started looking at those images and start mapping key facilities, like, for example, hospitals, schools, the buildings that were damaged. And this also helped to monitor the expansion of refugees camps. But okay, I didn't come here to talk to you about natural disasters and open data. I came here to talk to you about open data and procurement. So based on all these initiatives, a Colombian woman working at the IDB, she started wondering, what if we take the available data of procurement, we analyze it, and visualize trends and current issues that countries face in public procurement? She called me, and with a group of experts, we gathered together, and we started thinking about the problem. I will go back to one of the presentations from yesterday, from Guillermo, where he shows what a data scientist is. I don't know if you remember the three bubbles. One was statistics, the other one was the domain expertise, and computer science. So basically, each of us are making those three bubbles together. We have domain experts, we have economists, the statistics experts, and we have also computer science experts. So the first thing we did was to create an inventory of the data that was available. So we went to the websites of each country, we went in and see what procurement data sets were there. And from there, we started thinking about which questions we could answer. So for example, we could view how many contracts do they have by segment. We could see which entities buy more, from whom are they buying. We could, there were like many questions that raised. This was a complete change in the methodology. Before, we used to have an hypothesis and then go and gather the data to prove or to reject the hypothesis. Now, we have the data, and from the data, we are building the hypothesis, the indicators, the insights. We decided we gather data from 5 countries, from Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Paraguay. This was our first prototype, so you can call it. And we decided to publish it in Datagov. Datagov is an old website from the IDB that gathers governance indicators from many sources. So we decided to put it there. You can see when you click there, you see the list of all the indicators. At this time, there was no begging. We didn't have to go to each country and say, please, please give me your data. Please, please give me your data. No, that was not our challenge. The data was open, thanks to the initiatives that we have seen. But for us, the challenge was standardizing. Although most countries in Latin America speak Spanish, we don't speak the same language. We have different definitions. We use different words. So we had to go and sometimes even read the laws and to understand the meaning of the data that they were opening. We found open data, but closed definitions. So we need to find both now. Sorry. I'm going to show you 3 examples of the indicators that we have built together. The first one is the number of contracts by segment. This is an example of Colombia. You see here the bigger box is the biggest box is the contracts related to professional services. This is something that we didn't see in the other countries. When we saw, for example, Chile, we don't see that big box there. So we start thinking maybe there's a distortion in the data in Colombia. Maybe this is related to a hiring freeze. And so with the data, we produce some insight, but we still have more questions. That's like what happened when you start seeing the data. The next example is the time it takes to process a contract. So each row you see there is a country, and each column is a part of the process. From when you open the bid until you close it, when you close and you assign it, when you assign it and you sign it, when you sign and you start the project, and the duration of the project. Although we are still missing some data for some countries, we didn't see any big number there that is telling us the delay. We know that we are slow in managing the contracts, but in the data that we have seen so far, we don't see where the bottleneck is. So maybe we are missing data from before. Now we want to start digging in and seeing if we can get the data of the planning, what happened, everything that happens before you open a bid. The last visualization that I wanted to show to you is the concentration by supplier. This is an example of Mexico. You see here on the cell on the top, on the left bottom, that 75% of the contracts in Mexico are assigned only to 3% of the suppliers. So this is a really high concentration. We need to open the market to more suppliers, the procurement market. DataCompra is not another beautiful website with graphs that you can click around and show numbers. We are not only that. We want to start the conversation about the quality of the data. We want to encourage more countries to open their data, not only for transparency, but because the data is good for all of us. We can use it to measure, to compare, to take decisions. I would like to finish the presentation with a last message from Hans Rosling. I like hogs and soccer, as you can see, but not all hogs are good. And you have to be careful not to suffer with the database hogging disorder. So do not hog your data, set it free. Do not wait. Do not wait until you have your e-procurement system ready or where you have your website, beautiful website ready. Free your data now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you very much. One more round of applause for all of our panelists. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the point in the show for today where we are going to now begin to split up into 2 sections. So there are 2 different presentations going on, one here in the auditorium and one upstairs on the 2nd floor, which is not A2. It is just the number 2, so keep that in mind. Here in the auditorium, we will be hosting Procurement 2.0 and 3.0. On the 2nd floor, in another room upstairs, we will be presenting Monitoring Procurement 4.0. So those are our 2 sessions. So at this point, when we do break from here, this is where we're going to go. So you'll decide where you want to go. That will be followed by lunch, which will be held actually on both levels. Meaning when you walk out of your session, you can go right into your lunch. You don't have to come into one place. There will be lunches in both locations so that you don't have to move. And then, of course, after that, you will make your decision which session do you want to go to in the afternoon, and then you will go to the appropriate floor. So keep that in mind. One thing is that during lunch, there will be a MAPS session being held in the conference room on the second floor. A MAPS session in the conference room on the second floor. There will be people there to direct you and help you with that. After lunch, the 2 sessions will be introducing digital transformation in small states, and that will be in the auditorium. And digitalization at the subnational level will be on the second floor. So those are the 2 sessions for you to decide. Refer to your program, you'll have all the information you need there, and you'll be able to make the right decision. After the second panel, we will reconvene down here. So everyone, please come back down here. At that point, that's around 3:30 p.m. Come back to this auditorium, and then we will continue and begin to wrap up our day at that point and the conference. A few things to make mention of. One, everybody has on their badges, on the back side of their badges, a code that you can scan with your camera. And so this is a great way to share contact information, and it will automatically share your contact information with someone else. So you can do that. You can also use business cards. Nothing wrong with that. But since we are talking digital revolution, we had to make this available at the very least for all of you. So that's our part to be more digital. The other thing that I want to make note of is the email for signing of the declaration before the end of the day. That email will be coming from an email account called DocuSign. So in case you didn't see IDB or anything like that, it's coming in from a company called DocuSign, and basically it will provide you with the instructions for signing the document. Again, this is going to the organizations and the countries, so keep that in mind. If you do not see one in your inbox, do check your spam or junk inbox just in case it might have gone there. But again, it will be coming in from DocuSign, and there will be instructions for all of the information that you need to include, so that way you can complete the signing of that declaration. At the end of the event, when we are wrapping everything up, we're going to put up a big screen where we can see all of your digital signatures, and so we are looking forward to seeing everyone who is representing an organization or country to have their signature up there. Another thing, we have a notebook that belongs to one of the panelists that we found in the green room. If you were wondering where are all of my awesome notes, by the way, you did a great job of taking incredible notes. We have your, there you are. We have your notebook and all of your awesome notes. By the way, everyone made photocopies. They were great notes, so I hope you don't mind. And they're already up on the internet, in the cloud, all over the place, digital, on the blockchain. I sent it to many people, so. So we have that for you. And then lastly, for the speakers who are presenting in the panel after lunch, please do make sure to go to your scheduled panel location by 1:30 p.m. again, so that we can put microphones on you, get you all set up, and then you can mingle a little bit, and we'll call you back 5 to 10 minutes beforehand. We just want to make sure that everything works and that you are all set up for your presentation. So at this point, please decide where you're going to go, which session, and then either proceed up to the second floor. There will be people there helping you, filling up the elevators and getting you upstairs as quickly as possible. And on your way in, you'll notice there's coffee on the second floor as well. So don't worry, you don't have to grab your coffee here. You can grab it upstairs as well. Thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you a little later. Enjoy the next session. Oh, and one last thing that wow, that was great. Awesome. All of your questions that were submitted, we are going to pass them along to the panelists. Unfortunately, we did run out of time, and we could not fill in that or make time for the Q&A, and we will find a way to try to get you some responses, but do use the lunchtime to find these panelists, and you can ask them questions there. They will be receiving them ahead.